Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial, part 9 of this Godot tutorial series. So what we're going to do in this tutorial is we're going to just look at how we can make our game look a little bit better. So for example, this grass is now floating over the top of the sandbank. We want it to actually blend in with our environment, so we'll fix that up. And then also we want to bring a bubble effect into the scene to make it look more like a underwater scene. So to do that, we'll just use this bubble PNG. So you'll see that this is a very basic image that I created, just a circle and a circle within that with a highlight, and that's going to be our bubble. So before we get started on this, I'm just going to quickly explain how this will work. We're going to create a CPU particle system, and it will then emit these bubbles in various different ways to just give it an effect of it bubbling up to the surface. So guys, before we start this tutorial, just can you please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so yet, and turn on notifications so that you can get notifications of all new tutorials I add onto my YouTube channel. So let's look at the particle system first. So what we'll do to get the particle system going is we're going to need to just right click on this game node here and add a child node and look for CPU particles 2D, add that in. Then we want to first of all just set up our texture. So we need to go down into the drawing tab, just have a look. So we're emitting, it's going to be drawing over here, and then we need to just bring our texture in, so drag your bubble in there. So the amount we want to emit is 20 particles. We want to give it a lifetime of 3.26 about, that's what I used, and that's just to allow it to have more time to bubble up to the surface and then get that effect of it slowly moving up in the water space. Next, what we need to do is just make sure this is local chords, which is fine, and then we need an emission shape. So we'll start with a sphere. So you'll see that other shape has started creating this effect that we have here. So we're going to change our sphere radius to 128 just to spread it out a little bit. And then what we'll do is we'll look at the direction. Let's just have a look. Are we happy with this? We maybe just want to increase the spread, let's say about 90 or so. So you see it's already sort of making a bubble effect, just not quite what we're looking for yet. We need to apply a few more things to the velocity and some other values just to give it a bit more randomness. So we're not going to use gravity, we're going to look at the initial velocity. So we want to give it a random value, let's maybe just do 0.24 or so. And then we want to go and look at the angular velocity. Make it 0.4, just give it a bit more strength. And 0.24 for the angular velocity about. Around about here, any range here more or less will work. So you can see it's sort of now bubbling and dying off straight afterwards. And then let's look at what else we want to do. We want to actually go and modify the angle at which this gets created. So maybe just modify this to be, I think about 154 is a good angle, I think is what I used. Around about here is about right. And then we need to just do some randomness in our angle. So let's just add 0.86 just to add some variation. And then let's go on to the angle curve. So we need to just create a new curve. And I want to do something more or less like this, just to give it a bit more of a ramp on the curve. And then we need to actually modify the scale a little bit, because these size bubbles aren't going to look very realistic. We need to make a few smaller ones and larger ones, and that'll just give it a bit more variation. So I'm going to bring this up to 0.54 about, and then the scale amount I'm going to make 0.1. So see, now we have a whole bunch of variations of bubbles that are being created. Next, we want to just go and rotate this whole particle system to just face in the opposite direction. So to do that, we're going to go under the transform over here, and I'm just going to rotate this about 180 degrees. And about here, let's actually type 180 to get it more exact. And then I'm just going to move this into position. So that'll be somewhere around here. So you can see that looks like quite a nice bubble effect already. It's got this rotation like a bubble would have, where it would twist and turn and twirl in the water. So that's that. So let's just rearrange this a little bit so that it looks a little more realistic. So we want to actually bring this down. Actually, we didn't want to do that, so just undo that. So we're just below this particle effect here. So now it spawns behind this bank. So I'm quite happy with that, because often bubbles will come from the bank because of the creatures that live inside of the bank. So that makes it just look a lot more realistic. And then also in doing so, we've now moved this bank to the right place. Just not put it on the CPU or particles 2D over there. And that's now fixed our grass as well. So if we play this, let's see what it looks like. So see, we've got these bubbles and we're swimming. And the other thing about these bubbles is also it's obviously going to create that challenge in the game as well, where it's sort of obstructing the view of the player and makes it a little bit more difficult to actually play this game. So you might have found that it was very simple to actually move the fish up and down from previous tutorials, because this actually moves quite slowly, but with this bubbles it just adds that additional challenge to the game as well and balances it out. So guys, basically that's all we're going to be handling in this tutorial. I hope it's been useful. Particle systems are really nice to use. Go play around with it as well in your own project and see what cool effects you can come up with. So guys, anyway, please, if you've liked this video, please do like it, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. There will be a lot more Godot tutorials coming in the future. And once again guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.